And Alberta has reduced healthcare access for some foreign workers. Should temporary workers expect more changes ahead?
I can tell you this, that it's very frustrating for Canadian citizens and permanent residents, those who came through the long process, to see a temporary worker who's only here on a one-year permit bring their family and then have access to all the same programs.
And teenagers' health records will now be accessible to parents, but this decision is being opposed by the doctors and some advocates. So what is your opinion on that?
Children are children, and we want kids to be kids as long as possible. We want parents to have the final say over their decisions, and so we think we drew the line in the right place.
Critics are saying that your leadership has emboldened the separatist voices in Alberta.
Well, I would say that Justin Trudeau created this modern separatist movement. You know, after 10 years of terrible laws that have attacked our economy and our values and our way of life.
So with the new Care First auto insurance model, what concrete evidence will you have that premiums will actually go down for the drivers?
We put in a Care First model so that we could standardize what the medical benefits were and the income support was, so that people can call their doctor as their first call rather than call their lawyer.
Are we getting a new health facility here in this part of the city?
We already announced that we have to build a new tower in Calgary at South Campus, 350 beds, and then same thing in Edmonton, 350 beds at Misericordia and Grade 9.
ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਹਿੱਸੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਸੂਚਨਾ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਸੀ ਜੀ, ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਲਬਰਟਾ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਡੈਨੀਅਲ ਸਮਿਥ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕਈ ਮਹੀਨਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਅਰਸੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਖਬਰਾਂ ਸੁਣਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੰਸਰਨਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਸਨ ਰਿਗਾਰਡਿੰਗ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ, ਰਿਗਾਰਡਿੰਗ ਸੈਪਰੇਟਿਸਟ ਮੂਵਮੈਂਟ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਰਿਕੁਐਸਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਨੂੰ। ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਡੈਨੀਅਲ ਸਮਿਥ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਟੈਲੀਫੋਨ ਲਾਈਨ ਤੇ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਨੇ। ਹਾਈ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ, ਵੈਰੀ ਗੁੱਡ ਮਾਰਨਿੰਗ ਐਂਡ ਵੈਲਕਮ।
Well, hello, Rishi. Thank you so much for having me on. You have to tell me, when you've interviewed me before, I give my answers and then you translate. Are we doing it that way today?
Not really. I will translate later on.
Okay, fantastic.
Because I have been told that you have only 10 minutes.
Okay, well, let's do it.
Yeah,
We've got
sure.
lots of questions.
Yeah, sure. And critics are saying that your leadership has emboldened the separatist voices in Alberta. So how do you push provincial autonomy while assuring Albertans that Alberta remains committed to Canada?
Well, I would say that Justin Trudeau created this modern separatist movement. As soon as, after 10 years of terrible laws that have attacked our economy and our values and our way of life, when the Liberals won again at the federal level, a huge number of Albertans said, if the next 10 years are going to be the same as the last 10 years, I've had enough. My job has been to try to give those Albertans hope that Canada can work again. It's why I signed the MOU with Prime Minister Mark Carney and why we're working through the issues that are causing this irritation. We have another bill coming forward at the federal level, Bill 14, which will finally address the issue, we hope, of the catch and release policies that have put dangerous offenders back in the community. And there'll be other things that we can do to give those Albertans confidence. So I see that the numbers, every time a poll comes out, the numbers go lower. So I think that this approach is working. But we have to get more respect from Canada. And I'm glad to see that the federal government is now taking steps in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. And Premier, we are hearing that some of your colleagues, your MLAs, have endorsed this separatism movement. So do you agree to that?
I've not heard that. I've had a chance to talk with them, and we've had caucus meetings, and no one said that to me. So I don't know if it's true. But my approach has been that this is a citizen-initiated process, and it should be the citizens who decide whether or not they want to sign the petition to get a vote of their fellow citizens. So I'm staying out of it and watching what is happening here, and we'll know more about whether they get the number of signatures by May.
Mm-hmm. And now coming to the insurance premiums on auto insurance. So with the new Care First auto insurance model, what concrete evidence will you have that premiums will actually go down for the drivers?
Well, the big thing that we found with the old benefit system is that it was pretty poor. You could only get medical benefits for 2 years after an injury, and sometimes people need a lot longer for physiotherapy and chiropractic and doctor's visits. It had a very low level for covering compensation for lost income. And so we put in a care first model so that we could standardize what the medical benefits were and the income support was, so that people can call their doctor as their first call rather than call their lawyer. We've also limited the number of areas of that you can take the driver who caused the accident to court in the case of dangerous driving or criminal negligence. We're doing some work on there. I know that there are many lawyers who want to have a larger avenue to be able to have lawsuits, and so we're still consulting in the final regulations on that. But that's the balance, is that people want to be able to get the care that they need, and they want to be able to pay insurance at an appropriate price, but the legal system's expensive, and that drives a lot of the costs up. And so we've got to try to figure out a way to allow people access to the courts, but also keep those prices down. And our calculations suggest it should bring the average bill down by $400 a year when it's implemented. So that's we'll be watching to see if that's the case, but that is what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. And Alberta has reduced healthcare access for some foreign workers. And should temporary workers expect more changes ahead?
Well, I can tell you this, that it's very frustrating for Canadian citizens and permanent residents, those who came through the long process, to see a temporary worker who's only here on a one-year permit bring their family and then have access to all the same programs. Remember, it's expensive. You've got childcare, which costs $12,000 a year for taxpayers, education, which costs $12,000 a year for taxpayers. If you need health care, the average is $6,000 per person. And as well, on top of that, if you bring elderly family members and they need additional care, costs more. And that is nowhere near the amount of money that they would pay in taxes to the Alberta government in that year. So I think that there is a need for us to support those who come through the right channels and make sure that the programs are available to them first. And temporary foreign workers, the federal government has said, should be prepared to come with their own insurance. And the employers who hire them should be prepared to pay for their insurance for the short time that they're here. So we have to do some more consultation on this, but generally speaking, this is what we consulted on with our Alberta Next panel. And so it's kind of the first step in making sure that we're protecting the programs for citizens and permanent residents first.
And Premier, towards the end of the last year, you visited Airdrie, the neighboring city of Calgary. You just talked about a new health facility. So will you please let our listeners know, are we getting a new health facility here in this part of the city?
First thing we had to do was build more long-term care, because the problem that we have in our hospitals is that we have seniors who get a broken hip or a stroke and can't go home, and so they're waiting in hospital until a bed becomes available in continuing care. So our first big move was to build more of those kinds of facilities, to move those seniors out so that they get a more appropriate level of care, and it frees up space in hospital. And then we'll have a better gauge of how much additional acute care space we need. We already announced that we have to build a new tower in Calgary at South Campus, 350 beds, and then same thing in Edmonton, 350 beds at Misericordia and Grey Nuns. But I suspect we're also building a Stollery Hospital, which is a standalone children's hospital in Edmonton, to free up about 260 beds in Edmonton for adults. Mm-hmm. And we're also building a new hospital in Red Deer, which will add, I think, another 250 beds. But we think there probably is still a need for one to be in that North Calgary area, as well as sort of the North Edmonton area. It's a huge population boom, mm-hmm. and being able to give more affordable or more timely access closer to home is got to be a priority. It takes a long time to build those. That's the only thing I would say is the normal timeline to build a hospital is 10 years. So we're going to have to make some final decisions here very soon, or find a way to shorten the timeline. And so we're working on that one. Budget's coming up. So we'll see if there's anything in the budget that'll give an indication of where that's going. And
teenagers' health records will now be accessible to parents, but this decision is being opposed by the doctors and some advocates. So what is your opinion on that?
Well, I want to know what parents think. I mean, we have laws in place that a person is a minor until they're 15 years of age. And so the way the policy is working is that when you're 16 years of age and older, you're becoming more mature. You understand what might be in your medical record and how to interpret it. And so that's the point that you can decide to cut your parents off. But in any case, they'll be cut off at 18 when you're fully an adult. But when you think about being 13, 14, or 15 years old, if you've gone on and looked at your health record lately, and I encourage people to, it loads up all the results of your blood work, all the results of your urine samples, all the results from your tests. And that could be a pretty scary thing for a 12 and 13-year-old to have a look at without being able to talk to their parent about it so that they can get some context. So we have to remember that children are children, and we want kids to be kids as long as possible. We want parents to have the final say over their decisions. And so we think we drew the line in the right place.
And my last question is, Premier, the budget session is coming up. So what is your opinion on the Alberta economy due to American policies and falling oil prices?
Well, it's been rough. There's no question. I mean, I think the good news is that we are still making more jobs than anywhere else in the country. We still have the highest weekly earnings in the country, and we have our unemployment rate finally came below the national average. I think it was 6.4%, where the national average is 6.5%. So all of that is good, and I think that means that many, many households are a lot more secure. However, as you know, the provincial budget is over-reliant on resource revenues. That's a problem that got created over decades. It's a problem I inherited. We are trying to solve that by making sure we build up the Heritage Savings Trust Fund so that it can grow to $250 billion by 2050 and be a new source of revenue. But we've got to stick with that plan in order to get off this roller coaster. But in the short term, there is going to be some significant deficits as we try to manage the lower royalty prices. So it is going to be a tough budget. We're still going to prioritize the things that matter to people, healthcare, education, and supports for the most vulnerable, as well as building infrastructure. But we can't do it all. We certainly can't raise taxes because they would put too much of a burden on our families. And if we do deep cuts, it'll hurt people. So for the short term, it looks like we're going to have to run some deficits. That being said, it's another thing that people are frustrated about is that Ottawa overtaxes us. They tax $26 billion more out of Alberta than we get back in federal benefits. And then they transfer money to Quebec and Manitoba and the eastern provinces. And so Albertans are scratching their heads saying, why are we running deficits when we're sending so much money to Ottawa so that they can give it to other provinces? And that's another conversation we need to have with the federal government to get better balance. They should tax less so that more revenue stays in our province to be able to take care of the priorities that matter to Albertans. And that was part of the Alberta Next panel discussion, and it will be part of our future discussion with the federal government as well.
That's great. Thank you, Premier, for giving us time. And I try to remain in the limit that was given to me. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
You too. Thanks, Rishi. Always like talking with you. Bye.
Bye.